Good evening, everybody. My name is Caroline Spencer. Welcome. I wanted to share with you guys a technique from our latest collection. I'm going to be working very much with a look that Mark Hayes has done with myself. And I've got a beautiful haircut done here by Daniel McCourt, who's actually in one of our other rooms at the moment. And I think, especially at Sassoon, we talk very much about shape and balance. And that's what I want to work on here with my lovely doll's head. So placement is key. I'm very much looking at the shape that I have here. And if I spin my doll's head round, you can see that I've taken this curvature running from around the underneath of the nape, curving right above the occipital bone through to the side area and into the front. So it literally pivots or spirals right round through there. And I'm going to be working with 3 tones through here. On the underneath, I've mixed up more of a powder blue colour. I'm going to be utilising or multi-branding, if you like. I've got Sassoon Professional and Weller Professional through here. So through the underneath area, I'm working with large quantities of my clear, which is a bit like your diluter or your colourless chassis or your white paints. And I have through there, I've got 50 grams of my clear. And then just a little bit of a level 9 violet, 10 grams of that. And I've then added 7 grams of my blue pure mix or Intensitone or mixed tone. And that is just literally coming through the underneath into the front area. So I prefer with this kind of technique, as I'm doing it, to work in areas and work in sections. So if you imagine you're coming through, okay, so I'm working through the underneath of my section first of all. I mean, depending on what product brand you're working with, some prefer you to comb the product through, some prefer you to massage. I just follow like your manufacturer's instructions basically. But I think for me, it is all about sort of working in unison with the haircut. And we do at Sassoon really try to take that into consideration when we're doing sort of any technique. So cut and colour really do go together. I'm lucky here that I didn't have to pre-lighten my model prior. She was already like this. But you do sometimes have to think a little bit about, you know, when you're working on blocks or doll's heads, I do sometimes have to change my formula ever so slightly. And I also have a tendency to find with when I'm colouring sort of mannequins that I do leave my colour on for a fraction longer, because obviously it's been treated numerous times before. So I do take that into account. So just coming through on the underneath, and that literally, I think as I colour the hair, you're going to see how the section sits and really, you know, working with that placement of the shape as well. So I'm just coming round. And I think for you this evening, I wanted to have something that was really quite visual. I think especially with anything sort of online, I want you to very much see what I'm doing.
Caroline?
Oh, yes, Mark, hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very good, how are you?
I'm good. Your hair, I must say that your own hair looks very lovely at the moment.
Oh, thank you. I thought it looked a little bit frizzy, but thank you.
When you're leaning over, you've got these like massive big finger waves running through the front. It's very nice.
Thank you.
And obviously the technique you're doing is going to be stupendous. Can I just ask you, because I think some of our audience may have joined a little late.
Yep.
There might have been a few technical hitches. So could you just, when you've got that last little sliver on, could you just maybe give us a little brief recap?
Yeah, of course, of course.
And maybe show the inspiration image that I can just about see to your right at the moment.
Yes, I'll get James to sort of move the camera around. Okay.
Or
So
you
I've
can
just
sort of shush it in a little bit, maybe nearer to you or whatever.
Yeah, I can do either. So this is my inspiration, cut by Mark Hayes and coloured by myself. And the idea being that you have these internal areas of colour coming through. My section, I'm working something very similar, but I've decided because of the camera, I want to have something a little bit larger and more visual for that, taking that in mind. So you can see, if we look at Ronya here, you've got the underneath that is quite silver, and you've got the top section, which is slightly more silver as well, and it's pivoted at an angle. And then I've got these beautiful tones of like a taupe, like beigey tone, a really beautiful pink, almost like this pistachio green, and I've got almost like a powdery blue. And particularly the pistachio green and the powdery blue with the silver, I wanted to put through here, but make my sections larger and a lot more visual. So I am coming through on the underneath, working more of my powder blue, if you like. And I think as well, because to obviously emphasize this shape a little bit more, I want to have the blue really highlight this fringe area, just sort of the underneath of the shape. Another thing I'm taking into consideration is by having these three colors merged together, what I'm doing is I'm showing off a little bit more movement within the haircut as well. I don't want it to look too static. And I am working in a multi-branding this evening. So I'm using a combination of Sassoon and Weller. So this first shade, I'm using Sassoon. I know that Carla is in one of the other rooms with the formula, but I will repeat it for you. I have through here, I've got 50 grams, 50 grams of my clear, which is like my colorless chassis, my color filler, if you like. It's like your white paint if you go into a paint shop. And I have that 50 grams, and I've then got 7 grams of my blue Intensitone, or my mixed tone, if you prefer. And then I've added just 10 grams of my level 9 violet through there. And that is with my 3%. And you can see, as I take the color through, really working it, it's curving round the head, round the sort of like the perimeter of the shape, and it will be a lot more visual as I work through the hair. And depending on what brand you work with, some brands prefer you to comb the product through, some prefer you to massage. My client's being very good this evening. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So as you can see, it comes round. It's sitting right on this fringe area on the underneath. through there. I think with anything like this, take your time. And you can, if you wanted to. Obviously, I'm working on pre-lightened hair, but the beauty of this is that you can do it with variations of brown. If you wanted to, you could have like your black with like a hazelnut brown, perhaps even like a violety red. That would equally look as good. Just gonna take my clip out of the way. And you can see as that just comes through. As I pivot round. You can sort of see the colour taking as well as oxidizing. So what I'll do is I move around, I'll just spin my doll's head with me.
So just to let our audience know, if you do want to ask Caroline some questions, you can find in the top right-hand corner speech bubble for this page, and I'll be able to answer any questions to Caroline should you have them. Thank you.
So I'm going to bring the doll's head round a little bit more, and you can just see how that sits around. I probably wouldn't be as aggressive with a client like I am with my doll's head. Yes.
We have a question for you actually from Eleanor. She would like to ask, what are your color trend predictions for next year?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I think one thing I've noticed at the moment with hair trends is that I have been finding that a lot of people aren't wanting anything that's too high a maintenance, but they are wanting something brighter or more fun within the hair. So I do still see where we've, especially at the Academy, we've had quite a lot of our regular models wanting their natural colour with large pre-lightened sections, either through like the front of the hairline or sitting on top like a veil. So I think that's going to stick around for a little while, to be truthful. And I think what is nice with hair now, people are wanting to be a lot more individual. I don't necessarily think everyone wants to look the same. I think we are wanting something a little bit more tailor-made. It has been tricky in, I'd say, thanks to Instagram, it is fantastic. It's a great platform for us hairdressers. But equally, I think sometimes those clients that we get have a little bit of an unrealistic, they're a little bit unrealistic really with what you can achieve. And I always sort of say that we're not magicians. We try to be. But I think that's one thing. A lot of clients are wanting to have something that, you know, maybe isn't always achievable, but we try our best, don't we? But my prediction is that we're going to have quite a lot of larger, brighter sections or more vivid areas of colour within the hair.
We also have a couple more questions, Caroline. Ellie would like to ask you what type of comb you're using to apply the colour, and is it specifically for colour?
It's actually not. It's a white Bui comb, which is Japanese, I believe. It's a Bui Pro comb. I don't know if James can get it a little bit closer through there. I'm quite a visual person. I do quite like, if I'm working on dark hair, I like a dark comb, and if I'm working on my lighter bases, I like a light comb. But yeah, I tend to use like the wider tooth area. I prefer that. But if I do need to take slightly more intricate sections, I have got the aspect of using like the finer area. Some people do like to use a needle comb to apply, apply a tint. I just always am a little bit wary, especially if you're doing something like a bleach and toner. I always think the scalp's going to be quite sensitive, so I don't want to use anything that's going to, make that scalp even more sort of sensitive by using like a metal comb. But everybody's different. If you've got a reason for using something, to me, you can get away with it.
And also one more question from Ben. He would like to ask you, do you think you will have a lot of colour corrections to do from all the box dyeing that's taking place over lockdown?
Oh, Ben, you have no idea. We've had a lot of colour correction. We actually are going to be doing an online colour correction course because purely of that. I mean, for me, I really enjoy doing a colour correction or any form of like colour change. I find it quite, it just, really challenges me, and I find it quite therapeutic as well. But yeah, we've already had a lot to deal with from the first lockdown, and you name it, we've had bands of colour where it's sort of grabbed, I reckon we will. I don't think it'll be as bad. I think there's a lot of clients out there that have possibly like learned their lesson. They don't, they realised from before. I mean, how many hairdressers do you know that have got those regular clients and they've come in and they've gone, oh my God, like what have you put in your hair? And I think a lot more clients are aware of it. I think one of the things with the whole box dye as well, from what I understood from a lot of our academy models' perspective, obviously the white hair was a problem, but I think some of them got quite bored. We do a lot of young girls' hair, sort of between 18 and 23. And a lot of them, I think, were just wanting to experiment because they were quite bored during the previous lockdown. And I imagine we're going to be getting a little bit of that, bleaching their friends' hair. I mean, I've seen some of like the YouTube videos out there of all the mistakes that people have done on their hair. Can be quite amusing. But yes, I definitely think we're going to be getting a few, but not quite as many as before.
So just a reminder to our audience, if you would like to ask Caroline a question, you'll find in the top right-hand corner some speech bubbles, and this page is where you can ask Caroline any questions. Thank you. So
you can see that the colour, as it spirals right the way round, you can see it comes through internally through there. And like I said, you can work this. I've done it before. I did a Weller MCP event a couple of weeks ago, and one of the participants actually used a pink and a peach tone within the hair, and that equally looks just as beautiful. And yeah, you can work it, I think, really. It's quite friendly, I think, this kind of technique. So once I've got this on, I will spin my mannequin head round so you can see it a little bit more clearly. And I'm just literally working that all the way around there.
Lots of people are admiring your super technical and clean application, Caroline.
Oh, thank you. Do you know what? I actually think I'm being a little bit messy. But I suppose when you're on camera, and can't quite see over the top of my doll's head. Sure, I'll get a few sniggers from some of my team.
Have you got your heels on?
I haven't. I actually took them off because what happens before when I was actually doing some filming last week, and they said that we can hear them through the mic. So I had to shuffle around on a towel underneath my feet.
On the bottom of chair legs.
What's that, sorry, Mark?
I said you could always put those pads on they put on the bottom of chair legs.
I mean, yeah, I could do. I could put a bit of Velcro on, something like that.
Yeah, but then you sort of either stick to the floor or
Yeah.
you gather up all the hair.
I would. Quite a good cleaning tool.
It looks nice. I like the way that it's kind of asymmetrical, like the way it's working through.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful to see.
I think it's nice to work things a little bit off center.
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm doing my foil work, I mean, with any type of work, I think you really have to work with the client or the model's face shape and their head shape. I think for me, how their hair falls, where they wear their hair, how their crown sits. For me, it's quite important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll just spin round a little bit more, so hopefully you can see that.
But there's something about asymmetry, isn't there, that just puts things slightly off that I think is kind of quite alluring.
I mean, I hope when I obviously shampoo this off, you'll be able to sort of see how the colours flow. But I think if you are doing anything like this, be aware when you do it. Obviously, I've got a blue and a green and a silver with this, but just be quite aware that you don't want anything that's overly too contrasting, because you run the risk of where the colours are contrasting. As you go to shampoo it out, they bleed into each other and they cancel each other out. So I would say be quite aware of that when you do it. And I think with any form of mixed tone, sometimes you can get a little bit excited. And I think, oh, I'm going to put a little bit more in there. Oh yeah, that'll be fine. And you end up putting a bit too much. So be aware of that when you do it. You can just see how that comes around. I'm just using the finer edge tooth of my comb to come through. And just right round there. I will clean it up a little bit if I feel I've been a bit messy. Because sometimes what you've got to be careful of, if you can get it just on the section above, so you can just move that out of the way if you need to. So that would go through like so, my powder blue through there, running round. I will make sure, I'll just go around the perimeter of my section, making sure I've got absolutely everywhere. And then what I'll do, I'm just literally combing that in there. And then I have got a little cloth on me just to clean up as I go. See, I don't think I've been as clean as I possibly could. I'd be a lot cleaner on a client, let me put it that way too. Look, poor thing.
Caroline, we have some more questions coming in thick and fast.
Yeah.
We have Sally. She's asking, what have you used to pre-lighten the doll's head? Looks like a really nice base for lighter colour application.
Sally, I've been very fortunate in that my dolly was pre-lightened for me. So yeah, I don't know. It's an Exalto doll's head, the brand Exalto, and it's been pre-lightened for me. So I'm very lucky. I mean, I imagine, because a lot of the doll's heads come from South Asia and Far East Asia, I imagine it's been pre-lightened a few times to get it this light. So yeah, I've been very fortunate that I haven't had to do that.
Also, Ashley is asking, is this a popular sectioning technique you'd like to use often?
I think so, as long as you can work with the client. What is quite nice, Ashley, if your client wanted to keep some of the natural colour, you could perhaps either have your natural area on top or the natural area running through the middle if somebody wasn't particularly wanting a strong regrowth. There's ways that you can work it. We did a technique years ago which was called Yin Yang Colour. And it was the idea of literally like a yin yang of black and white. But we've developed it since, and you can actually have it where you've incorporating half the head of the natural colour and then half the head you can pre-lighten. So there's ways around it that can equally look as strong. So I'll just, hopefully that's answered your question, but if you look, I might even take my doll's head off if I can get her off. No, probably not. But it basically comes round from the nape through here and literally curving round. Hopefully I'm going slow enough. And then literally just through the top there. So it looks quite pretty once it's on the head. And there's a few different things you can do. You can lay foil or a form of mesh. Because I want mine to look quite visual, I am going to lay mesh on the hair. So I will place that just on the underneath. My plastic mesh is from ProCare, in case any of you were wondering. And then this will be my next section. So this runs through that very front into the middle. So I take my sectioning clips out. And I'll give myself some clean gloves. So I've just mixed that up like so. I have, with my next shade, I'm actually using Weller. I'm using Weller Professional Me Plus, and I've got for this 50 grams of 000, and I've then added 20 grams of my 10-stroke-8-6. So that, if I drop the section around a little bit, you can see how that will sit through there. Just running through. So I'm going to work on this side. It'll be a little bit easier for me. And just literally, that sits over. And I'm wanting to have slightly more of a silver shade through here. Because obviously it's been pre-lightened already. But sometimes you do find with certain mannequins, they can be a little bit unpredictable.
Caroline, we have a question about the formulation in the first part from Sarah. She's asking, because you're using clear, will it limit the holding power, and will it wash out quickly?
Thank you for that question, Sarah. I mean, it shouldn't do. I think with anything like that, you've got to ask your client, do they like their colours to gradually fade out, or do they want to have it, really pale or really strong? I think it just depends on the individual. I'd always ask the client, especially if they swim or they have quite a heavy lifestyle, or they're always washing their hair, maybe they go to the gym, you might want to have less clear and more of your true pigment in the hair. So I personally would ask that client how they, especially if they're one of those clients that always likes to change their hair color. But I don't find that, it's got less holding power. If that's something that you've perhaps experienced, maybe Sarah, maybe I'll wait for Josh to.
Also, Debbie would join us. She just wanted to know the formula that you used in the first section, or the first sort of panel.
The first section, I did 50 grams of clear. So 50 grams of clear, 10 grams of my level 9 violet, so my 9-5, And then I did 7 grams of my blue pure mix or my Intensitone. So what I can do for you, I can translate that into Weller if you wish. In Weller, that would be 50 grams of my 000, 10 grams of my 916. And I actually think if I would probably do maybe about the same amount of the blue, the 088. Well, I have slightly changed the 088 and it has a slight green pigment to it. So you could, if you wanted to, add 0.5 gram of 5566. Hopefully that has answered your question. And Weller, you can use your pastel developer, which is like your 6 volume or your 1.9 in there. And that's what I've used today for my middle color. With Sassoon, because it's a gel-based product, it has a tendency to look a little bit darker on the hair, whereas Weller, being a cream-based product, actually looks a little bit lighter. But I think it should give a really nice result once the colors are processing and you can see how they're taking. So with Weller, you can massage the product through, but depending on, if you want to try this technique at home, I would work with how your product company recommends you to work. But I think having something paler coming through internally will look really quite nice. Sort of showing something a little bit off balance. And you'll notice as I come through to the top area, where that section is a complete sort of circle, it is off balance slightly. And that's working with the haircut. I think when I tend to section it, what I do is I look at where the crown is situated, and that will give me my idea of placement through there. So perhaps if you've got like a double crown or something that's quite jumpy, you might need to take it a little bit larger. Now, processing time for toners, I think, can be anything from 10 to 20 minutes. It just depends on, obviously the longevity that you're looking for. Some toners, if you're working on like a sort of a form of balayage or your highlights, what I'm not the hugest fan of is when it lifts the natural color and you get that slight warm band. But here I don't have to worry about that because obviously everything's been pre-lightened. So that literally just comes around that front area, like so. What I will do, once I've got everything on, I will come back through and check that I've got everywhere, that I haven't missed any areas. Sometimes I even use the point of my brush just to smudge and to blend it in a little bit more.
Caroline, sorry to interrupt again.
That's all right.
But Kay from Nurture has said you are giving her her best lockdown night ever.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go. Can't ask more than that, can I?
So thank you to Kay.
Thank you, Kay.
And thank you to you, Caroline.
There you go.
I shall leave you and Josh to crack on. It looks nice.
So
though.
you can, yeah, it does look nice. I think once it's all on, and I'm going to spin my doll's head round, my beautiful mannequin, so you can sort of see. So when we were talking earlier about see how they cross over each other. And that's really what I want to do, is sort of have that coming through more in the fringe as well. So you've got a bit more balance through there. So just literally round like so. And you can see that just comes right round. And I think what that will do as well is it really break up, you know, you've got the powder blue and then more of like my pistachio green. Well, that's my theory anyway. So what I'll do, once that's on, I'll just really comb it through, and I'll comb it back onto itself. Hopefully you can all see that really well. Through there.
So Sarah says she does find colouring hair on a blonde base quite tricky. Like you said, Caroline, people want their colour to last, but then they shampoo their hair regularly. So this makes toning really tricky. But she really likes the idea of adding the Sassoon clear to dilute the colours.
I mean, I think it is a good idea. And they're sat in the chair. You know, do you want to change your colour next time? You know, do you want to have this for quite a long time? Because maybe we're better off doing it darker, and then it will gradually fade out and you'll probably be happier with it. So I think, because otherwise those type of clients are going to keep coming back to you, and, you know, they could be coming back to you every 2 weeks to have their toner redone, which, you know, not necessarily a bad thing if you can charge them for it. But yeah, I would take that into consideration. So sometimes what I do, if I was working like a pink, perhaps I'd add just a little bit more of the pink into my mixture to make it stronger. So I've got my plastic mesh again. So you can sort of see how visual that is. And then my last shade, which is more of my green. So if we're talking about placement and we're talking about how the hair sits, but if we think about that for a minute, now I'm going to spin my mannequin round. I'll try to, without breaking the head off. But you can sort of see how the crown here is a little bit higher. So perhaps if my crown was situated a bit lower, I might have curved round a little bit more, because what you don't want is for it to split and it just looks too busy. There's too much going on. And that's what a lot of the time, a lot of colorists or hairdressers make the mistake of. They often have their crown area looking far too busy. So through here, as you know, your greens tend to be quite light, really, because you've obviously got that mixture of your yellow in there. So don't be too scared when you see me put my green on the hair. I have mixed up 70 grams of my clear, and I've added 20 grams of my green with literally 1 gram of yellow. So if you were going to work this in Weller, and I've tried this before and it works quite nicely, if you were to do your 0 to 8 with your 033, and if you do half and half, and then perhaps add some yellow into that, and you get more of a green, because when you strip down your color and what it is, so you can achieve it, or as close as you can, really. So I'm just going around the perimeter, and that is with 3%, by the way, but I can repeat it for you as well. And Carla, who's in one of our rooms, she's got the formula as well. But I really want this to be quite soft through here. I know it does look a little bit like the Incredible Hulk because I put it on, but it's not going to be.
Caroline, you mentioned earlier that you really like to do colour changes, and Eleanor from HJ is asking, can you share one of your favourite colour transformations that you've done?
One I've done recently is I did it was actually one of my students, but I took them through. I did a colour course recently, and it was from brown to a really vivid, bright orange. We were getting quite a lot of models wanting Mila Jovovich's hair in the film Fifth Element. I don't know if any of you have seen that, where she's got that bright, screaming orange hair. So we did like a lightning bath on her hair prior. It lifted out pretty well. And then we went through and did like your orange sort of direct dye, and it looked incredible. I'll see if I've got some pictures somewhere, but yeah, I do really enjoy a color change. I think it can change someone's features so much, and you know what you're trying to can literally just change their whole look, just equally as much as a haircut does. But yeah, I do love it. I think it is easier. I find it easier going from dark to light gradually with time than I do someone who's been bleaching their hair for years and they want to go dark again, because they all want it very rarely holds, and that's probably like my least favorite thing to do, but I like a challenge. So what I'll do, once I've got this on, I'll start taking it through to the ends. You'll notice that I'm combing it towards the middle. Really making sure I put quite a bit on. But you'll agree that it is really quite striking once it's all on the head. But I wanted to, do something a little bit visual for you today, because sometimes on camera it can be quite hard to sort of see anything too intricate. But please don't be worried that it's going to be like, bright green. It's really not.
Caroline, Ashley is asking if it's possible. You've obviously talked about Sassoon Professional formulas and Weller Professionals formulas. She works with Goldwell in her salon, and just wondered if you were able to point her in the direction of a formula that she could use.
I mean, I was actually working with Goldwell back in March at an event in Dubai. I know that everything is like, you've got the cans, haven't you? And you pump the colour into the bowl. I don't know as much with it. I imagine though that Goldwell has they've got like their acid-based colour, and I can't remember what it's called. But I know they should have like a clear or a form of like a colourless chassis, that you can add into your pigments to make them softer. I would have thought. I was working with it back in March, and it's nice, you've got a great shine on the Goldwell range. So I think really, I guess you'd have to ask your Goldwell provider to see if they've got something like that. I imagine they would do. You can use like a form of like your direct dye. I've had to on occasion use like a pure pigment direct dye, like your Crazy Colour or Directions, and then add like conditioner in it to make it lighter. And you can use that if you so wish. It has worked. So I'm just really massaging that through.
The audience is really enjoying the sectioning pattern of this technique, Caroline.
Oh, that's good.
We have greetings from Guatemala, Fiona. She's one of your students. You taught before.
If I spin that round, what I'll do as well is I'll take the plan. So I'm just using my brush just to smudge a little bit. But like I say, it's going to be, I want it to be really quite soft. Just remember, if you do want something stronger, just add more of your pigment, your mixed tone, your intensity tone.
Another multi-band question, Caroline.
Mm-hmm.
Iona would like to ask you, have you used Schwarzkopf Igora Vibrance or Pearl Essence?
I've used Igora. I haven't used the, what did you call it? The intense, what was it, Josh? The
Igora Vibrance.
Vibrance. I haven't used the Vibrance, no. I have used Igora before. It's nice. I've used actually, I got quite a lot of, got to try the Schwarzkopf lightener. It's very nice. It foams quite easily. Leslie Jennison, when I spoke to her about it, it's like the Schwarzkopf ambassador. She said the best thing to do when you're working with the Schwarzkopf is you can actually use a slightly lower developer and you still get a really good degree of lift. But I haven't had, I'd like to have a try of that actually. So if there's anyone out there with Schwarzkopf, I don't mind giving it a go.
Nemo's asking, what will be the processing time for you on this?
I would say anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes. I think it depends. I want obviously it to be quite soft and quite pale, but I am aware of, like the processing time. I think a lot of hairdressers make the mistake with their toners of taking them off too soon. It's natural. We do have an element, we think, we start to panic when we see it changing color, but I think you have to trust in yourself to leave the toner and walk away and let it develop. So I'm going to say 15 minutes here from when I've put it on, and it's looking, I'm just having a little bit of a look through, and it's looking pretty good. So I will hold my dolly, as it were, just check that it's all looking clean. Look right, James? So you can see how that section, the blue that comes around through there, and obviously it's on that nape right there, and you've got the silver shade which comes through internally and then obviously round that fringe, and then I've got more of my like pistachio green, which I'm just gonna, as I spiral around, I can see little areas that not looking, need to blend it a bit more, but hopefully that's nice and clear for you. Yeah. And like I said, you can work this kind of technique. The haircut has to be slightly more of a rounded shape. You can work with a little bit more disconnection, but think about your placement, how the hair sits, how you want it to lay, the end result really. And like I said, you can work this on a darker base. It can look really good. You could, if you wanted to, if you've got time, you could work, maybe where I've got the blue section, you could pre-lighten that. That would look equally as good. Or even where you've got the silver section, you could pre-lighten that internally and have the underneath like your black and the top your brown. That would look just as good. So yeah, try it out. You could maybe work it if you're left-handed. I know Carla is, who's in the other room, she'd probably work it from the other direction, which would equally be as cool. So I'm going to allow my doll's head now. I'm just cleaning her up a little bit. It was cut by Daniel McCall. Daniel McCall's answering some questions in one of the other rooms. So we can ask him a little bit about the haircut as well once I've finished. I've shampooed and blow dried.
Caroline, just one last question from Iona.
Yeah.
She'd like to ask you, what brand do you prefer, or what brand gives you the best reduction in yellow from bleached hair when you're toning it, I'm guessing?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I think I'm a little bit greedy and I like to have little bits of everything. I think in terms of Sassoon is really good and Wella Professional and Illumina if you want to get rid of any kind of yellow pigment or orange undertone. If you're doing more color correction and you're taking someone from dark to light, light to dark, I'd probably go for more of an ammonia-free product. I like Wella Colour Touch because it takes really well, it's nice and even, and the quality of the hair isn't sort of compromised. That would be my go-to, but yeah, I'm a little bit greedy when it comes to that. I like a bit of everything. Hopefully that's answered your question. So what I will do is I'm going to allow to process. I'm going to obviously shampoo. If while I'm processing for 15 minutes, if you would like to go into one of the other chat rooms, have a look and see what Danielle's doing with her haircut. If you're interested in Danielle's colouring technique, Carla coloured the model on Friday, or the doll's head. So if you want to ask Carla any questions about the colouring technique that she has done on Danielle's doll's head, feel free to ask her that, and I will see you in a bit. Thank you very much. Okay, so here is my finished look on my doll's head. So what I'll do is I'll get my comb and just section so you can see how those shades come through, like so. I think hopefully you can see that quite clearly. I'm gonna also get Daniel McCourt to come and talk a little bit about his haircut. He's obviously worked with the idea of Ronya's technique, but I think what I'll do as well, you can kind of see how that looks in the back as well through there. So you've got, I've got a little bit of yellow string there, sorry. A little bit of you've got that powdery blue on the underneath. You've got that silver tone coming internally, and then you've got slightly more of that like pistachio green on top. And then, yeah, I hope you all like it. But like I said, you can, I've obviously done this stronger for you guys because of the platform we're on, but you can do this softer. You could maybe keep the silver area internally, but then maybe have like a lilac and a pink, or a peach and a pink, or do even, I quite like it when you do like 3 different blondes, works quite nicely as well. But I think you'll agree, just by having those 3 tones in the hair, you're just breaking up the haircut and you're giving it a little bit of movement. So what I'll do, I'm gonna come off now, and Daniel's gonna talk a little bit about the haircut.
Hi everyone, hope you're all having a great evening. I've been watching the haircuts and colours.
Caroline,
Yep.
can you give Daniel your microphone? Because we can't hear Daniel at the moment.
You can't hear me? Okay. Hello? Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you, Daniel.
Perfect, absolutely fantastic. Okay, so I've worked on this look, obviously in collaboration with Caroline. So I did the pre-cut on Caroline's Muse. And the idea was based on a front cover of the Dazed and Confused magazine, 1996, an image taken of Chloe Stavini, photographed by the New York photographer, a New York-based photographer, Mark Rothwick. And I just loved this this kind of early, this mid-90s reference, this kind of like heavier, low graduated, kind of bowl shape, really. And I think it's definitely a look that everyone in the team has been really, really inspired by across the academy. So I'm just going to talk you through the technique. So what we've done is originally what you do, you start the haircut from the nape area, so graduating the line through your fingers. So the graduation starts through the center back of the head and just descends around to a point just behind the ears, so just following the natural contour of the head. So it just starts to very, very gently graduate through, and then just lifting the hair out as you arrive towards the front hairline. So essentially just graduating the hair into this very, very low graduation, kind of working with the natural contour of the hairline as well, and then just rounding the shape up through to the front. And the second process, so it's all about kind of establishing the shape on the underneath and then just rounding out any excess weight. So you've just got that really nice, effortless texture to what essentially is quite a heavy graduation. And then through the top, working with a technique that we're all inspired by, that we're all obsessed with, the reverse layering technique. But what I've done is I've graduated a line into the hair that works essentially with the overall dynamic of the line. And then each section, as Danielle has been doing in the demonstration, each section's been lifted up. And I've just removed enough weight to help the hair to move freely without disturbing the integrity of the outline. So what I can do now is just lift the hair out for you. I hope you can all see it. So you should see very, very clear differences in length. All of them completely technically disconnected, but all of them meet at the same point. So kind of in a way, cheating the haircut, really creating the illusion of a very heavy geometric shape, but internally removing lots of weight from the hair. So the hair has this really effortless, spacious feeling to it. So I hope you like it. It's been super cool collaborating with Caroline. I love your color. And I hope to see you again soon.
Looks beautiful, Daniel.
Thank you, Mark.
I just wanted to say to everyone that now that the demonstration, I'll tell you what, Daniel, are you still there?
Yes. Yeah, I'm still there.
Put the mannequin in the center of the screen more and sort of lift it up so she doesn't look like she's been beheaded. And then you can have no on the stand, so
okay,
that they can have a screenshot moment.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And make it, dress it into like a nice Chloe Sevigny kind of ID styly.
Let's just have a little look at. What I might do is just bring it a bit closer.
Okay, yeah. It looks cool though. And then just to the audience, when Daniel's finished dressing the hair, obviously you can take a screenshot, but also the chat rooms are going to be open afterwards when Daniel's finished her haircut. I love the roundness of the shape in the front. It's so nice. Just give it a few little holes. That's it. Everyone's got their hands in there. Caroline's in there. Daniel's in.
No, I thought I'd get my hands
Everyone's in.
Yeah. I feel like you're going to come over in a minute, Mark, and get
No. It looks super cute.
I mean, like I said, you can do this with different colours. That's what the beauty of it. You can really change it around and stuff and do it, But I just thought I really wanted something a bit visual, something a bit more fun, in lockdown.
Yeah. She hasn't the ears. You can't tuck the hair around the ears.
I know. I'm trying. It's say to them. It's quite. Caroline, say. I don't know if they can hear, but just say it's cool with this type of style because it is so symmetrical in the overall shape. If it's actually dressed asymmetrically.
Yeah, I mean, you could dress it asymmetrically, but you could. I think sort of where I've taken that section, I was thinking about the crown area. You work very much. The crown is your section off point, and then really you're wanting those colours, depending on what you're doing, to come through. So they sort of merge together where that fringe area is, and you're showing a bit more. But you can change it. It's like it's nice with silver, a taupe, and a pink or a peach. I thought for lockdown, it's nice to have something a bit minty.
Minty fresh.
Caroline's put it in a whacking great middle parting now.
I know. What's she trying to say about my dressing skills? She always does this to me, Mark.
No, it looks cool though. Leave it alone now. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
I hope you enjoyed it, and you can take away some ideas that we've done.
Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline. Thanks, Daniel.
Beautiful, Caroline. Very nice.